Hey guys, New Jersey Piper Ben here. Having some Sam Golleth Full Virginia Flake from 2018, courtesy of Stefan Skip, in my Rossi Rubino Antico 8320, courtesy of Buckeye Piper's 600 sub Gaw. So thank you so much, guys. The YTPC is freaking awesome. And I'll be shocked if I can keep this pipe lit throughout this, so just go ahead and get ready for me to set it down at some point, but I'm going to try to keep it going. So jumping right in the interest of time, Chad Yardism has a series profiling his favorite albums, starting with the year of his birth and continuing into the present. He's in the 80s at this point. I'm not sure exactly what year, but it's been a fantastic series. Started in 1969. I've learned a lot about music. I've added a lot of music to my collection because of his series. And disclaimer, I do not know as much about movies as Chad knows about music. I don't know as much about my own career as Chad knows about music. So just to preface that, I did, correspond with him back and forth before I attempted to even do this, and said, hey, would you mind if I try something similar but with movies? And he was like, absolutely. He was like, I've thought about doing that myself, but please have at it. And as soon as I started doing the research to basically compile the lists that are going to allow me to try to do this, I really figured out quickly there's a lot of movies I have not seen. So that's pretty much going to start every year. It's going to be a list of the notable movies that I have not seen, just as a disclaimer. And to let you know too, I'm not going to name obviously, every movie from that year. I'm probably not going to name movies that you thought about that I should name. This is just me searching Google, various lists, and finding those movies that I think are of note for that year. And then I'll obviously finish up by naming my favorite movie from that year. And I'm just, again, disclaimer, my favorite movie, not stating this is the best movie from that year. Obviously, I'm not qualified to say such a thing, and no single person is, to be honest. So it's obviously all very subjective, but yeah. But I think hopefully it'll be fun. And this is going to be my first foray into attempting to overlay pictures into my videos, because obviously I want to share movie poster art too, because that's one of the things I like about Chad's videos. He has that visual interest of adding, album covers and things like that. So yeah, I want to do that too. So without further ado, I have a secondary tablet to look at with the list. And starting with 1979, the year of my birth. All right. So, basically I'll start out again listing the movies that I have not seen. Kramer versus Kramer actually won the Best Picture Oscar that year, directed by Robert Benton, I know, starring Dustin Hoffman. Can't remember who else is in that, but yeah, Being There, directed by Hal Ashby, actually came up in one of my call answers. Because somebody mentioned a Hal Ashby movie that I hadn't seen, and it reminded me of that being there. Nosferatu the Vampire, Werner Herzog movie. Escape from Alcatraz. Mad Max, the original Mad Max. I have not seen that movie from start to finish. I've obviously seen parts of it, but I've never sat down and actually watched that movie. crazily enough. And the new Mad Max Fury Road is insane. It's one of my absolute favorite movies that's been released recently. It's the most beautiful 4K presentation I've ever seen. So I really need to go back and watch those. The original Mad Max trilogy. Another one you'll maybe surprised I've never seen, Star Trek the Motion Picture. Have not seen that. Never been a big Trekkie, crazily enough, but. But yeah, never seen the original Star Trek movies, never even watched this TV shows. From what I know of the universe and the sort of ethos of the show and the sort of philosophy of the show, I think I would be very conducive to it, but just have never gotten into it. Meatballs. Early Ivan Reitman film with Bill Murray. I've never seen that, crazily enough. It's another one of those ones I've definitely probably seen parts of, but again, never seen that from start to finish. Monty Python's Life of Brian. Have not seen that. The Amityville Horror. Have not seen that, which is crazy because I call myself a horror fan. Or, you know, even a horror movie junkie, so to speak. So, yeah, really surprised I've never seen that. And that's actually on Prime, so I'm probably gonna watch that before too much longer. And the last one I have not seen, Caligula. Now, I'm laughing because I'm immature, but Caligula was basically an attempt at a big budget Hollywood porno, for lack of a better word, directed by Tinto Brass, who is known for such movies. Probably, obviously never worked with a budget quite this big before. There were some notable stars in the movie. Malcolm McDowell was in the movie. Helen Mirren was in the movie. The movie featured explicit sex scenes and was about the, you know, notoriously debaucherous Roman emperor, I think. I don't really know any history there, but yeah, it was a big deal back in the day. I think in part produced by Bob Guccione, who was, I think, the owner or CEO or whatever of Penthouse magazine, I believe. So, yeah, fun times. But never seen it. Never honestly really had an interest to see it. Outside of like morbid curiosity, but that urge was never enough to really, you know, make me buy it or seek it out for any particular reason. But, you know, you hear about such things as you become a movie fan over the years. And these are some of the movies just wanted to mention that are basically somewhat in the running, I would say. Again, being a horror movie junkie, it was a movie known as Zombie. It was also dubbed Zombie 2. Almost like it was some sort of weird de facto sequel to Dawn of the Dead, I believe, was the intention there, if I'm not mistaken. But it was a Lucio Fulci movie, who was a famous Italian horror movie director. Dario Argento was obviously another famous Italian horror movie director. You know, they kind of had similar sort of styles of movies, I guess, but you know, the godfather of all that was George Romero, who did Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, etc., etc. So there was a big zombie craze going on at the time. But this Lucio Fulci movie, Zombie, was kind of known for pulling in that sort of tropical zombie vibe. They kind of had like green tinted flesh and not a lot of sort of sophisticated makeup or special effects. Deer just ran by. But still, the movie was fairly impactful. It had a very memorable and sort of gross out death scene moment involving an eyeball that it's kind of known for. An eyeball and a decent sized shard of wood from like a broken door or something. So that was a fun scene. Woody Allen released Manhattan, obviously starring himself, and I believe it was Diane Keaton, if I'm remembering correctly. But again, 1979, set in current times, lots of scenery in and around New York City, basically involving the romantic relationships of various progressive yuppie type people. And, their ins and outs and, foibles and, this and that. But Woody Allen's kind of known for that sort of romantic comedy type movie that has edge to it. And it's, tends to be written fairly intelligently and things like that. So, yeah, it's worth mentioning. Rocky II, the successful sequel to, obviously the original Rocky, which, huge franchise, put Sylvester Stallone into like superstardom territory, so to speak. A rematch with Apollo Creed. Apocalypse Now, Francis Ford Coppola. Hugely impactful movie. Amazing cast. You had Martin Sheen, young Martin Sheen. Marlon Brando, obviously. A very young Lawrence Fishburne. A very young Harrison Ford at the very beginning of the movie. But yeah, just an epic war movie, Vietnam era. When I saw that movie for the first time, the end of it, the things that are happening in the end of that movie, the visuals, the things it's showing, stick with you. It's one of those movies that's kind of hard to shake after you watch it, especially depending on how old you are. I was probably, I don't know, maybe early 20s, late teens. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, impressionable to see stuff like that. I'm not sure if this is Ridley Scott's first movie, but it's definitely an early movie, Alien. Another groundbreaking production, epic horror, epic science fiction, epic, female heroic lead in Sigourney Weaver. The rest of the cast is absolutely fantastic, filled with amazing suspense, amazing special effects. Even to this day, they stand up to scrutiny. Just a fantastic production all around. So yeah, definitely had to mention Alien in the context of 1979. The Jerk, one of Carl Reiner's movies, obviously Steve Martin, iconic comedy movie. An early David Cronenberg movie known as The Brood. If you know anything about David Cronenberg, I guess his sort of MO is kind of weird horror, off-kilter horror, non-traditional storylines, science fiction edges to them. But yeah, just unavoidable. Again, if you're getting into movies and horror movies specifically, you're gonna come across David Cronenberg, and for all intents and purposes, you should probably try to watch just about anything he's directed, and The Brood is included in that for sure. The Warriors, pretty iconic New York City movie about rival gangs. They have a huge meetup in Central Park to kind of go over some guidelines, rules, something. I can't remember the exact premise. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, but in that huge meetup, something goes down and somebody actually gets hurt really bad or killed, and how things unfold, everybody thinks it's one particular gang that did it, but they didn't do it, but they can't prove that at the time. So the only choice they're left with is to run and try to make it back to their home base before they get killed, basically. So, and their home base is Coney Island. So getting from Central Park to Coney Island, that's a long way. That's a long subway ride, so to speak. And so the movie is all about them trying to survive throughout that process, and rival gangs chasing them in the streets, run-ins with the cops, etc., etc. So it's kind of it's a little nutty movie. There's some costumes that are kind of funny. There's even a gang that dresses up like baseball players, which is obviously totally unrealistic, but it made for kind of a cool aesthetic at the time, at least. But yeah, a really enjoyable movie for sure. And obviously, I can't, get out of 1979 without mentioning Phantasm, Don Coscarelli movie, starring Angus Scrimm as the tall man. Captain Bailey's Adventures. I know he knows way more about this movie than I do. He can name off the stars and everything. I can't do that, but super memorable horror movie. Really crazy imagery going on in the movie. The plot is just insane. Definitely some fantastical things going on in the movie that obviously can't be explained by the laws of physics, so to speak. So nice bits of gore in the movie. It's not exceptionally gory, but there are some parts that are kind of out there enough to make you take notice and be like, oh wow, this is pretty crazy. So yeah, really enjoyable movie. I know my lists are probably going to be fairly heavy on the horror, but that's just who I am as a movie fan, because as I started digging in and looking at the movies, I just kept seeing, movies that wouldn't be in anybody's top 10 for the year, outside of a horror movie fan, which is what I am. So there were just some I just had to put in there, even though they probably, I'm not going to pick them as my favorite movie of the year, but I just, again, think they deserve mentioning given the subject matter of the video. So, without further ado, the winner, or my favorite movie of 1979 is, drumroll, Alien. Yeah. It was, I would say, given the choices, Alien was a pretty easy winner here for me, I think. Even if you force me to pick a number 2, maybe Apocalypse Now. And I like Apocalypse Now for what it is, and just the scale of it is immense. The story is amazing. But, I don't love the movie, but, still that would probably be my number 2. Alien was by far my top choice for 1979. I watched it again recently. I bought the 4K Blu-ray disc, and it's absolutely amazing. It stands up after all these years, and if you haven't seen it, yeah, you gotta remedy that very, very quickly. So, not as long as I was thinking this was going to be, but if you stuck with me throughout the end, thank you so much. If you think this is a good idea, leave me a comment. Tell me what your favorite movie from 1979 is, like Chad does. Tell me what you think I'm going to pick for 1980, just to kind of get that interaction up. So I'm basically calling all you movie fans out there. I know this is not traditional content based for YTPC stuff, but I just think I just think it's fun, and I think I've got enough subscribers to where hopefully there's enough of you out there that might enjoy seeing this and learning more about movies. And again, I'm not going to get into them heavily, but basically, if I'm noting them, if I'm calling them out, then, it basically means that I think they deserve mention. So, yeah. All right. Take care, guys. Be excellent to each other.